Let's get into it. Marcy Bursac, how is it going?
I know, right? Like, how's it going? I had a friend tell me years ago when I did pageantry as an adult with zero experience that so I was like, this is super uncomfortable. Like, I've never done this. And he had the wisdom to say, but we grow there. And so I hope your life is full of a lot of uncomfortable. And that's how it feels right now. Like I'm at a stage of I've never done this before. I'm learning new things. And so it's growth. That's where we grow.
Yeah, well, I just watched your clip of being on the Kelly Clarkson show, and I was just like imagining what that would be like to be on that couch.
Mm.
And the only other the only people that I knew was Kelly, and then I guess Billy Ray Cyrus, a bit, like being there on the show, and then all of a sudden you're gonna like talk and say something, and I
Yeah.
was like, man, that would be super nerve wracking. Like, how's she gonna handle it? And you did like great, and then I remembered too that yeah, you have experience in pageantry. It's like, oh, she's probably had like experience too, like speaking and having to be in the spotlight like that, and that was so great. That was such a great clip, like to watch you do that.
Aw, thank you for your kind words and for watching it. Yeah, I don't know that I felt nerves. Because, when you do anything like that, I do a lot with news and when you're speaking, right? And there's you have this much time, so please stay in this time box. That's really what you're thinking because you have to respond in a concise way. But I'll tell you, Ryan, what was interesting is that actual interview was scheduled, and I was under an NDA, I couldn't non-disclosure agreement. And the day I checked in for my flight, an hour later, I got a message from Pilot Penn saying, "Hey, the trip's canceled indefinitely. There's a writer's strike." And so I didn't actually know if it or when it would ever get rescheduled, but I had a lot of time in that time. Many things came out of that because I was like, well, I told him I was going to write this book. And then I had the aha of oh, just because that might have gotten moved doesn't mean I can't move. I'll get writing my book that I told him about, which compiled stories, anonymous stories of families who adopted through foster care. It's called What to Know When You Adopt Through Foster Care. So I'm working on that. And in the meantime, I'm like, what I need to think about is I'm probably going to have a minute with Kelly Clarkson, a minute. And what I don't want to do is ask the same thing that probably everyone else has asked her. Okay. So that was on my mind. And so 3 hours into hair and makeup that morning, because I mean it's national TV, right? And you go through the stuff, right? And I had the most amazing experience. Very talented woman came to my hotel room at 6 a.m. Eastern time. We go through the whole thing. I go to the studio, and as they're setting things up, let me know in advance. You don't have to walk out there. We're not going to have you do that part. And I was like, okay, whatever you want to do. And I had a minute with Kelly right next to her. And it was really funny because I was like, I don't want to ask what everyone else asks, right? So I looked over and I was like, so Kelly, I was like, do tell, what time does your hair and makeup start? Because I don't know that answer. And it was the most interesting conversation, Ryan, because she said, actually, I wait to the last possible minute. And I said, what? And she was like, I actually am allergic to my mascara. And so I don't like wearing it. It bothers my eyes. And so I was like, where is the makeup company? You need Kelly Clarkson mascara, there's somebody that could really partner on that. But I learned something really cool by asking something you wouldn't normally ask.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder, like, that's a cause right there. Like, that's a cause to start something. Like, how many other women
Yeah.
are out
Yeah.
there using mascara that is like that they're like allergic to, or like gives them some kind of reaction? Why isn't
Yes.
hasn't that been taken care of? You think that somebody, if anyone would have the right kind of mascara, it would be Kelly Clarkson,
Yes.
who is like on TV and needs. And yeah, like, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Who performs yes, she's
yeah.
all the time.
So yeah, okay. So what was she, like? Like, I'm always curious, what like stars are like. Like, what kind of vibe did you get from her? And did you get to meet any of those other people that were up there? Like, kind of curious what that was like being around superstar kind of people.
Yeah. Yes and yes. It's everything everyone thinks. I mean, I think there's a genuine nature through all of that. There's a genuine nature of how people show up. I did have an interesting conversation at the time. Billy Ray Cyrus was married to a woman named Fire Rose, and she was actually on the show as well. So we had a fun bathroom conversation behind the green room as we were getting ready, but they were really real. And they were so thankful because a lot of it's not aired on some of the preparation behind that, but just the kindness of they knew I was there for volunteerism. And so just the sentiment, and that was super sweet because they were there to talk about other things they were doing. And they were very kind and encouraging.
That's good. Yeah. Because this is something I've been thinking about a lot lately, Marcy, is that there's a lot of people that get a lot of attention that are sharing ideas that aren't that great, that don't like really help people a lot to like feel good about themselves or feel good about other people, kind of like help the world, and everyone's got their own opinions too. But I've just kind of been realizing this a lot in the past, I don't know, I guess like the past year, maybe the most. Like, man, there's a lot of people, and like a lot of people just kind of look to these people and believe what they say and adopt their ideas. And it's like, man, like maybe I think I need to do something about this. Like, I think I need to share my voice more. If this person who I like think is just not a very good person, and they don't really have any expertise or background or anything, and they've got like these millions of followers, like why couldn't I share my voice and share what I think? Like, isn't that a responsibility of mine even? Like, so that's why, yeah, I really, love what you do and what you're doing. And I wanted to ask too, like, what does that feel like? Like, what does it feel like to be on your mission like this? Doing that thing. Because I think there's a difference between just having a business and being an entrepreneur and having that freedom to like having something that's got that mission behind it. So like, how does that feel? How do you do that?
That is a very timely question. Before I answer you, because I might end up crying when I tell you my answer, I want to know, have you resolved yourself about like, okay, you have this opportunity, you too could use your voice. Have you decided like I should use my voice? Are you still in like, how would I use my voice? Where are you at?
Yeah, I'm definitely like, yes, that's always been the plan. Always. And it like it is, I write and I speak, but it's always the plan that it's like I'm trying to, I mean, there's also like, hey, I kind of thought, I could either sit in the mountains and just like I thought, I asked myself, could I be happy sitting like in the mountains, like in a little cottage thing, like with my dog and a family, and like not do anything and just like kind of be in the moment in nature and stuff? And I was like, yeah, I could be happy. But then I thought, but would I be happier and feel more fulfilled if I go into this like world where there's all these kind of scary things, and there's like bad people and there's politics and there's like this stuff, like don't I need to do that? And so I decided that I need to do that. Like, I want to be, in the world. I don't want to ignore it. I want to face it, figure out what's in it, and then do what I can to share my light with the world. So yeah, I'm doing my best to get there, to share. Yeah. Thanks for asking.
I'm happy for you. I'm excited about what that's gonna like look like and mean. I think I had a moment like that myself. I was in the pandemic, staring at my screen probably as much as all of us were. So I was paying more attention to things that I wasn't seeing before, just in terms of like why within the United States we have a foster care system where children are supposed to temporarily live with other families while their biological families become stable, whatever that means for them. And my husband and I intentionally adopted children through the foster care system because 50% of the time, children don't actually go back with or reunify with their birth families, which at the present moment in the United States, we have over 100,000 children. It's like 108,000 children that are in this scenario. So there's many of them. And what I noticed after we had gone through our own long non-straight line process, and it got longer and longer, so I blogged, as I started paying attention to some of the marketing that I got around this. And I remember getting an email that was like, hey, and it was like inviting people to leverage their social media, right? Like, can you please post this on your social? But then I read what the content was. And Ryan, it was zip code specific. Can you ask for people in these zip codes? And I thought, I know people like across the world Like, how am
Mm,
I supposed to, like, get that to the right people? That seems kinda silly to, like, canvas when, like, you're really trying to target, and I just couldn't shake it, Ryan, because I thought somebody should, famous last words, right? Like, somebody should do it this way, and I think in the moment, it's like, "Well, what do you do? How do you start?" And I have, like, a process. I made a T-chart, so, like, just like a piece of paper, vertical line down the middle, and then 2 headings, and one was my left side was, "What can I do?" And my right side was, "What would I do?" And so I allowed myself unlimited time, unlimited opportunity, like, no, no, no. Okay, what could I do? And I wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote, and it filled up like a sheet of paper. And in reality, I thought, there's no way I can do all of it, especially at once. And so I made a rule to myself that I could move 2 to 3 items to the right side of the paper. And that's where I started, Ryan. Is what I can do is get started on something instead of trying to do everything. And I think in a good, healthy way, I was blind to a lot of what that meant. And there's a lot of bumps in what I would call like agility and like bouncing back and like pivoting and trying to figure it out. Cause things on the outside, you can be like, oh, it looks so great, everything you're doing. I'm like, it is amazing. And there is a movement and it's incredible. But under that is a lot of resilience. And under that
mhm,
is a lot of people that are there, whether it's like financially or non financially or just like emotional support. Because I walk through families privately behind the scenes. We talk through things that are real. And that might be something in their relationship. It might be something with behaviors of kids. It might be like a fear they have that I've heard the term, and some of the families I've coached have said, I feel like this is a cardinal sin to even ask you this question. And like to me, Ryan, that kind of trust is huge, right? It's huge to have people feel comfortable enough to say, without you in this space, I might not know who to ask or even ask. And because I probably wouldn't ask, I'd probably never help a child or sibling group. Like that's a huge responsibility, at least to me. But on the flip side of it, as things move on and go and so forth, like there's a huge responsibility about really for me remembering who I'm doing this for. And really staying true to who I'm doing that for. And to clarify that, like in my current season, I do this for all children to have families. It's not just some of the kids in foster care. It's not just the ones that are like this or like that, or the ones that, maybe have one sibling versus five. It's for all the children who are waiting to be adopted. And that there's different shapes to that. There's different kinds of families to that. And I'm in that for them. I'm in it so that every child can have a family, not just some. And so it's interesting as time goes on how that gets clarified. And at the same time, Ryan, I really think that a lot of I've been doing this work for, I guess, informally for quite some time. Formally is like a federally conceived nonprofit for about 3 years. And to see how just you have to kind of do the next, not to quote too much of Frozen 2, but like you have to do the next right thing. And sometimes that means you have no idea where you're heading. But the next right thing to do is this. And then I think the other piece that I would add is the consistency in the space is huge. So for me, that's like being consistent. And you and I worked on this, like, how do I show up on social, right? Consistently. And it wasn't just post something. Cause I remember, I think really early in, as we were working together, you were like, try to post every day. And I was like, that doesn't really fit my pace. But I hear what you're saying, and it's be consistent. And the same with my podcast. Like I monthly drop content. And sometimes you drop it and you're wondering, is anyone listening? Like, is the data? Like, am I crazy that I'm doing this? And that's a constant question. Am I crazy? Am I crazy that I'm doing this? But the consistency when you're advocating and using your voice, kind of going back to what you're asking yourself, like, what am I supposed to do? The consistency is everything.
yeah, 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 yeah. You do. You put out a lot of great content. Yeah, podcasts and posts. Yeah, your posts are very, very just real and natural too, Marcy. That's a thing for like AI and
You helped with that, Ryan.
ChatGPT.
We worked through that.
Yeah, yeah, good. Yeah, we did. Yeah, it's refreshing, and something I've been thinking about recently and seeing. So I saw this app the other day, and it was an app to create a digital signature or basically like a signature, like a handwritten like calligraphy signature. And
Mhm.
the first shot was somebody doing a signature, and it's kind of like a bunch of lines kind of scribble. This looks like a signature and says, "Do you have like a bad signature? What if you had one that looked like this?" And it's like a really beautiful calligraphied signature. And it's like fine, but it's like a generic calligraphy signature. There was nothing wrong with the first signature. It was a mess, but that's your signature. It's like the way that you write is just the way that you write. And so there's a lot of people, just more and more, are thinking that they should be doing things that are generic, and that like that's the right way. Like there's something wrong with who they are, and
Mm.
there's something wrong with the way that they do things. There's something wrong with their imperfection, and people are forgetting that it's our imperfections. Our imperfection is perfection. We're supposed to be different. We're supposed to like spell things weird. Like when I write things, I, not purposely, but like I don't use perfect grammar. I don't spell things the right way all the time. And it's like I just do it because it's fun too. You know, I know the rules and I break the rules just to do it. But there's like just like so much fear of standing out. Um, and I don't like that very much. And let's see, there was something I wanted to ask you too, kind of far removed from that now, kind of went on a side note there, but I guess something I wanted to ask is what what is the most difficult moment, or perhaps maybe like what's like the aha moment that you see with most parents when they're in this kind of, they want to adopt, they don't know, they're kind of getting information. What's like the moment that, is there something like that where they kind of like it like clicks that this is something they can do, or like what is that like?
It's a fair question. I am going to address your earlier comment about blending in. I think as humans, right, we like to be accepted. I think we like for approval, right? I think there's just a normal response, and I think that the boldness to just try. I mean, I think about a few weeks ago is at my kids' martial arts class. My husband and my kids do martial arts together, and they were having kids at a rope down this long room, and the kids had to like jump back and forth over this rope that was a few feet off the floor. And when they first got started, it was interesting because they kind of tripped over it a little bit and like couldn't quite get it, and they were kind of sloppy, but they went all the way down the room. And as they got down the room, it looked really good because they kept going. And I think that's, if anyone's listening and they're thinking like, I'm so afraid because I'm going to mess up. Yeah, we all started somewhere. It doesn't have to be perfect. There's a quote from an author that my husband and I adore that he says, if I would have waited for my first book to be perfect, I never would have published it. My first book has 3 typos in it. I'm still making an impact, right? But it's imperfect. So I just wanted to respond to that because it's like that can really paralyze us, I think, as people
Yeah.
to be, like you said, be our unique selves, and really to me, like to really live out who we are. If we're afraid of standing out, I would question, are you going to be able to ever be your whole self if that kind of
Yeah.
paralyzes you? And it's not too dissimilar to answer your other question about like where is that moment? Like how do people kind of get there? And I think, Ryan, it's so simple. When I was a kid, there was a show, Schoolhouse Rock, and they had this slogan of knowledge is power. And that's really all it is in the space. In the United States, the foster care program is run by the government. And whatever country people are listening and are admitted, I mean, we don't think about, the best marketing I've ever seen comes from the government, right? We don't think about that related to anything from the government. And that's really the challenge where I come in to clarify and make it simple. So a lot of times it's just, now that I'm aware of what ages of kids we're talking about, which by the way, it's usually ages 8 and up. And by the way, you're probably not adopting a baby. Now that I know that, and now that I know that financially, I thought it was going to be expensive. And now that I know that through tax credits, I'm getting reimbursed, and out of pocket, we're talking maybe $5,000 a child. Okay, now I know that the financial part's not in there. And now that I know that I need training on how to help children who've been through trauma, now I know. And so it's that knowledge that gives people opportunity to say, that's for me. Or it gives them opportunity to say, I actually super wanted a baby. So grateful to know your information. I'm going to go adopt an infant. Thanks a bunch. And so it just provides some decision making, right? Just having knowledge, Ryan. It's really that simple.
Yeah. Yeah, which is why your books and the app is so important. It's like you're only one person, and the easier we can like give information to people and the better decisions so they can make. People just need to be informed, and it's like the total reality and the total reason why things can be messed up too. It's like the way like politics right now. We're like listening to these ideas, getting a perspective, and then that idea and perspective is reinforced and reinforced, and then we're in this bubble of what we have on social media or maybe friends, and it's and we're in that. So um I don't understand how people can be so involved in an idea and so hateful about it. Like I think of like the radical left. I don't know where you are politically exactly, but like the whole idea of hating the right and Trump and conservatism, like the idea that if you're not 100% with us, like if you're not, and this isn't even exactly about left or right or liberals or not, but there's just like these ideas out there that if you're not 100% with us, then you are the exact extreme opposite of all the negative, horrible things that you can be. And I feel like there's that side that is like that, but like most people are just, they don't think that at all. Most people are just very normal. You can meet people out on the like out on the street or whatever, and you can talk and get along with anyone. You don't have to know anything about their politics, and you can just get along with people. Like that is the reality 99.9% of the time. And I was at a networking event last night, and I was talking to a girl who's an American, and she'd like lived abroad, and she's here in Rio, and she asked like, oh, if you would move back to, like, would you ever move back to the U.S.? I said, oh, well, if I would, I'd probably move back to Austin. I think that would be like a really cool place to live. And she kind of like cringed a little bit. And it's probably because, Austin, Texas kind of these days is associated more with the conservative side, and, people that are like think more aligned with the right. And maybe, she saw that and then like saw me in this way. But we had this like normal conversation that was all good and happy. But it's just so funny how just that name, the idea that I would move to a certain city, could trigger a response. So it's like, again, to our responsibility of sharing ideas, there's people that are trying, like the whole media, we're trying, there's this war for ideas, this war to get as many people influenced as possible. And if we're not doing it, if I'm not doing it, somebody else is. And I can't control what other people say. I can only can control what I do and what I say. So, I'd like to keep putting stuff out there, or I don't know. I could just go live in the woods, I guess. Nah, I don't think so, Marcy. I don't think so. I think I'm too far. I think I'm too far down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, I tend to be pretty neutral on most things. I have a saying among my family and friends that like you have to, and people say this all the time, right? You have to choose the hill that you're willing to die on. And I think that's different for everyone. And it's just, it is what it is. But I'm like, when we're dealing in the space of where I am in foster care adoption, there's a bipartisan caucus on this issue. It crosses everyone. And to me, it's about kids and putting them in families. The other stuff is there and that's fine, but it's not the hill that I'm caring to die on to argue over those things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my mom brought this up last night. She's like, Ryan, because I was talking to her about this, about like speaking my ideas and using my voice and how I want to use it. We're talking about the same kind of thing. She's like, yeah, Ryan, well, you gotta, I never am going to be a hateful person. I'm never going to be somebody that's bringing others down. I could call people out for negative things they do, but I'm never going to bring people down and call them names and be anything like that. But my mom is saying, Ryan, like, you have a business, and people, if you start to kind of say things that kind of beliefs, then there's going to be people that don't want to do business with you. They're going to say, Ryan, oh, he thinks like that, I don't want to do business with him. And I thought about that. And one thing that about marketing, or about that, is that some polarization is a good thing too. Like, yes, there are going to be, as long as I'm not hateful and I'm still being true and authentic to myself, there's going to be people that aren't going to want to deal with me, maybe label me, whatever, and not want to do business with me. But there's going to be people that are like, wow, I get Ryan, I like his ideas, I really want to do business with him now and refer him to places. But this is me and my business. This is just Ryan Clark Consulting. If you're doing something like with what you're doing and it's about the kids, it doesn't matter. We got to get as many kids as possible with families and like living great lives, and they're on all sides of the board. So you can't alienate anybody like that. That would be, horrible. So what a kind of dilemma. I guess you just, are there things that you fight against in the space? Are there bad actors, bad ideas, like things that you try to bring up to like warn people about?
I think it varies, Ryan. I mean, do I coach families on how to navigate a process that's really, they have to advocate for themselves? I do. I think when you do enough research in this space and you learn all the pieces, some of it is you figure out, now that I know that, you evaluate what are things I can do with that, right? And is that, if I can do 2 things or 3 things, is that worth fighting, right? I remember during the pandemic, as I was trying to figure out how to impact this space, for like, I have this term of a 48-hour pipe dream where I could just kind of pretend in my head, I don't ever say no to myself, but just kind of dream. And I was thinking through like, okay, what I could do is redesign the whole system and we can make it work. And in my head, Ryan, I fast forwarded 2 decades. And I thought, okay, if I do this work for 20 years, what would look different in 20 years? Like throw in the ball real far in the future, right? And Ryan, I could see a hair of a needle move. Hair. And so that's where you realize, like, yes, I can do something, but if that something is going to have piddle impact, very, very minuscule impact, is that really what I want to do? Mm-hmm. So I don't do that. I focus where a small bit of consistent difference. That's why I write books. Okay, well, if I'm seeing in the families that I coach, they have this need, and I'm currently, like my first book, I'm currently coaching families in my living room. The pandemic happens. Friends moved to Michigan. I'm coaching over Zoom because Zoom was new at that point. The idea became, how do I teach more families across the country? Like, now that I know that the states really aren't that different, there's some like naming differences, but we can get through all that. Then there's opportunity to that, and then the next book came that was a children's book that was me being frustrated because my kids didn't see themselves in a book, and we don't really talk about adoption in classrooms. And so I guess I tend to be more solution oriented, Ryan, of like, what am I seeing as trend, and how do I take that trend, and is there value in doing something? So the book that I wrote with the grant that I got from Pilot Pen, that was able to be, I wrote the book and it was coming out right as I went on the Kelly Clarkson Show. So that whole writer's strike was such a blessing. That was people that had been reaching out to me with these specific scenarios where maybe they were adopting a teenager. And I was like, I don't have teenager experience, but I know someone, and I'm really good at connecting people. And so I thought, well, what if you don't have to contact me to hear from my friends? Because we'll be real with you. So we stripped everyone, like, it's all anonymous, and we passed along those insights so that anyone can learn those things. And it just scales it, right? Because it's like, instead of having to contact me and then we put you in touch with them and then they give you the advice, why don't you just have the advice so you're just going in with eyes wide open? and you have the answers you need to decide, is this the right path for you? So things like that, Ryan, that like I try to find like, is there something already in this space? Research that, right? There's plenty of things that I've met podcast guests because I went looking for, is someone already using eHarmony for this? Like, are they already thinking about that technology? Because matching kids would be amazing. I find this woman, Thea, who runs a nonprofit called Adoption Share. She did that, and that's super cool. So she comes to my podcast, right? So I think I think I want to encourage people that, you know, having ideas of what you can do is really good. It's like such a great thing. And having too many ideas is such a good problem, right? But pick one and see what happens. And if it flops, like I started writing a book 2 years before I ever published one. I was trying to write it on Saturday afternoons because that's when I thought I had time, but I didn't actually, my energy wasn't compatible with that. So I ditched the book because I was using this like really like formal template and it wasn't a good vibe. But I tried, and that's something. I'm still proud of myself for trying. And then things kind of came together 2 years later with a whole different process.
Wow, Marcy. I literally wrote down a question for you about like, how do you come up with your ideas? Because you've like have so many creative ways to get yourself, you know, out there, like connecting, you know, like the show, like writing the books, like having an app. Like there's all these like really kind of creative ways that you've found to spread this idea and connect with people. That is really cool. And yeah, it's just like that mission. That's like that, like when you feel like you need the thing. I really wonder, you know, in my life, I feel like I feel like I'm still in training for the thing that I'm really going to champion in my life. I feel like there's a thing, I don't know, maybe it's multiple things. And I wanted to ask about you too. Like, is this your thing for life? Or how do you see this? Do you see this as the life mission? Do you see this as like, yes, now it is my life mission. Maybe it can change later. So I feel like everything that I've done so far in my professional life, like say being in college up to now, you know, I've been learning about communication and human psychology and marketing and copywriting and like people, you know, getting along with people. I've like learned all of these things and I love the work that I do now. You know, I help clients to connect with their audiences and get their ideas out there. But I feel like this is all training for having my organization, like whatever that is going to be, where I put all my energy into it. And I try every day, pray every day. I think like, what is it? When is it going to come? Like, when am I going to know? Like, I'm happy, but I know there's something, and I just wonder where that comes from. And I mean, I just feel like it's just all trust and faith. And I just know that like every day I take those steps every day to do the things that I love, and it will just come on its own. And that's it. You know, I just keep going.
Which is a great thing to do. I don't know, Ryan. For me, like I finally have the shape of what I do. So I have a day job in technology, and I lead a nonprofit that I started with a stimulus payment, and it's all volunteer run. So I don't make a living off of the work that I do. It's for a while I knew it was a nonprofit. I've learned to add language like a volunteer led nonprofit, right? And I did a fellowship last year where they had us go into 4 groups. We had to stand under these large sticky pieces of paper. And it was, I'm trying to do this full time. I'm trying to do this part time. I'm trying to, I can't remember the third one. There was a third one. And then there was, this is a passion project. And I thought, by process of elimination, I'm not the first 3. And so I stood under passion project because I was like, I don't know what this is. And that honestly has given a lot of clarity, Ryan, because I had a time where I was like, am I supposed to like try to build this thing so that I can work in this thing? And the dynamic that I have an incredibly supportive employer. I get time off to volunteer. I have a lot of flexibility. I work remote. So like right now, like I took my lunch hour to talk to you. Like this is just part of my normal day. And sometimes that lunch hour might be split in 30 minutes at a time. And I'm coaching a family or I'm having a call. about the organization. And so I don't know, Ryan, like what's the runway, Marcy? How much longer? I know there's still work to do. I know I'm still on this earth to do that work. I've got a graphic novel in the works that I'm planning to launch next year in November. The illustration process is over a year. So the script is written, which is huge. It took us 5 months to do that, as well as a lot of research before writing the actual script. I have a movie in my heart. It's been there for a bit. So my husband and I were joking recently that, like, okay, after you write books, like, what do you do? And he was like, maybe you need to change mediums. And I'm like, And I don't know, Ryan, like a lot has come together in the past several years because there's a strong overlap of, in the US, the foster care adoption space and the entertainment industry. There's a huge overlap. So I think it's very feasible. If there's a need in this space to make a film, I think there's that would come together if there's a need. But I think what I've learned in the process is that, one, it's okay to have a million ideas. Like, that's such a healthy, creative thing for all of us. But I think what people can get stuck in is indecision, kind of that analysis paralysis. If I have 100 ideas, and so I'm just going to keep waiting. And that can feel like a good decision. I've taken more the approach of, what if I just spend 10 minutes? Like, I had a week a few years ago. I had gone the pageantry route, right? I went to nationals. I worked ahead. I was at the time in a master's of business administration program. And I worked ahead of my coursework, told my instructors, like, hey, just so you know, I've turned everything in early, because just in case I get this national crown, not really planning on it, but just in case, there might be media opportunity. So I need that margin. And Ryan, I walked away top 16, won People's Choice, and I didn't have media opportunity because I didn't have the national crown. So I had time. And I thought, this is a gift. I've worked ahead to create margin. What do I do? And so I thought, I've always wanted to write a children's book inspired by reading my kids, Are You My Mother? I always thought there needed to be something about children who are adopted. And so I decided my thing for that week is, the minimum I could do is I could get myself familiar with the kinds of literature that already existed. So I pulled stuff in our own family library. I ordered stuff on Amazon. I went to like therapy books that I even had like used in like a play therapy setting. And I thought, I'm going to immerse myself as a step forward, because I can do that, right? I can, I don't know, spend $100, get some books. Let's just see. And Ryan, I think I was 2 days in to just, the books had arrived. And the words of the next book came out of my mouth, Ryan, because I was around the research. And I think there's something to that. I think there's also something in sharing our ideas with the right people. I think I want to add that as like bold, with the right people, because sometimes we can have a creative idea, right? I remember telling my husband I'd like to take a stimulus payment and donate it. And he was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I just want to see if that was okay before I start thinking. But then to have to like, okay, I want to take one of them and I want to write this book. And to get his okay, well, his okay meant just go do it. And so, and the book after that was a crowdfunder, the children's book. I had people that were so excited about the book and wanted to see it happen. So they paid for illustration. And I think that's where ideas take leg. But I mean, there are other things behind the scenes, Ryan, that I've had idea on that either we moved the deadline. Like, okay, I was thinking, like, for instance, my graphic novel. Initially, I was thinking May 2026. But then as we learned more about how much time it really takes to create something like this, it became very apparent that was going to be not enough time. And so we looked at, okay, what could we move it to? And so sometimes that idea is a great idea. It just means not right now, or maybe sometimes it's just put it on the back burner and see if it even comes to fruition, right? There's just, sometimes we need to just do the one thing first and see what happens.
What guides your decisions? Like, how do you determine whether to do something or not?
Ooh, fair question. I'm thinking through how do I know? How do I know? I think there's a sense, there's a couple factors in this. One is, I'm a person of faith, and I learned this during pageantry, because there were like some things that I was asked to do, like learn to walk in 5-inch heels, like things I never knew to do. That I needed to learn. And so it was just doing the next thing, right? My husband's immediate response was go buy the shoes. And I was like, okay, I didn't know I was doing this, but cool. We're just getting, but like, it was just that was the thing I could do next, towards the thing I already, had already tried to get friends to convince me elsewise, and family. And they were all like, no, you should do it. It's a great idea. But I think through like most recently this graphic novel, it was a research project, Ryan. I mean, sometimes I'm like, should I post on social that I'm doing research? And I'm like, no, I should, because it's actually okay to let people see that sometimes it does, like, I'm doing something I might never use. Like, it's actually okay to bring my followers into that experience, because maybe it will inspire them to take a leap as well, right? So, graphic novel, I remember posting that I went to the library and I brought a bunch of them home and I felt crazy. And then I let everyone know that, like, I was doing it. So people started asking, but it then became a conversation with some people in my life of like, hey, I'm working on this. And then, okay, what's the next thing I can do? The next thing I can do is try to find a coach, a writing coach. The next thing I can do is to try to find an illustrator. And so I think some of it's just where is their energy? Is it coming together? Because I have a good friend a long time ago told me, you go where the energy is, right? And so when I wrote my children's book and I had the language, like all the text written, and I couldn't find an illustrator, and I felt crazy then because I had written a bunch of illustrators, hey, I've got this thing, I want it to come out in about 4 to 6 weeks, I'll need your stuff back. And they wrote back and said, you totally know you have a typo in your email to us, right? Like, you meant months, right? And I was like, no. And they, kindly were like, we're not, like, that's unrealistic. And I felt really defeated, Ryan, because I thought, well, man, like, okay, guess that was funny. And then I sleep on it and I feel a nudge of one more day. For one more day, try again. And so I did. One more day. I looked at a few more places, wrote some emails, and I had a firm in Florida set up a discovery call with me like a day or two later, and we met. They were a third of the price of everyone else, and they delivered everything in 2 weeks, Ryan. So
Wow.
sometimes it's just kind of following, as they say, as the spirit leads, right? Like, sometimes it's just seeing, is anything going to come of this? Is this going to come together? And allowing, like, I have a large amount of permission to self. It's always okay to change. It's always okay to feel. It's always okay to shift. If I have in my head today, I'm trying to do 35 things, that's not very realistic, but I at least kind of know, like, my next kind of most important thing is this, but that could change in 10 minutes to this. And that's okay, because I'm doing the most important thing next. And sometimes the most important thing next is do nothing tonight. I had one of my friends that coached me through authoring. She was like, I didn't write every day, which I was like, gasp, what? And she was like, sometimes my energy just that wasn't where it was. And so having that permission to really, like, follow your energy and pay attention to it has a huge amount of weight in this space. And I think, Ryan, what equally is helpful and what I'm sharing is I feel very fortunate. I have a number of people in my life, my husband, my board members, some close friends, that I feel like their support is everything, Ryan, because they're not people. I mean, will they tell me I'm crazy sometimes? Sure, they will. But I never have to feel apprehensive to share an idea with them, because I know that, like, they'll be real with me, but they won't tell me anything like you're a failure or that's stupid. And we have those people. All of us have those people in our lives. Like, in fact, there are a couple people I found were in my life, and I'm like, okay, you're not an idea person. I can't take you with me anymore in that discussion.
Yeah.
But I think when you can find people that can be helpful and not just say yes to everything because they love you, but actually genuinely give you some thought or weigh in or tell you that's cool, like, just listen, that I think that's everything.
Yeah. 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 That's probably the biggest lesson I've learned in this past year, a couple of years, few years, kind of since I've been, went out on my entrepreneurial journey, is just how important the people around you are. Like, they affect you so much, in every way. Like, your environment and those people that you talk to every day can, like, whether it's business partners, friends, or clients. What I'm really even realizing is, even, just recently on the business side, like, clients that I work with, it used to be, I'd be, happy to work with anyone. And I'll kind of, reach out to people that are probably a good fit and do work with them, and it'll all be fine. But more and more, as I've gone on this journey, I've taken just way more time and reached out to fewer people with more energy and intentionality for only the people that I really feel like I can work with really well, that I can help, that I'm going to enjoy being with. Because it's just not, it's like, once you realize you don't have to live life with negativity like that always. There's always going to be something there that's, yeah, that's difficult people, difficult situations. You're always going to have that. But my goal is to just feel as free as possible, to always be doing what I want with the people that I love, on my time. and and that means like working a lot, and that means, I don't know, being on my own a lot and not being around people a lot. It means different things to different people. But I just feel like so lucky, blessed. Like I have my mentor, this guy David. He happens to be, he's like one of my best friends, and has helped me for the past 3 years just to do it. Like us just being friends, we talk every day, and he's a marketing genius, and but just like a great friend, and we just shit talk each other all day every day. And I kept waiting for the day he's going to drop me, abandon me, and just like not want to help me anymore. And it's like, but just time and time again, day after day, he's just giving me things, just like giving me resources, giving me help without asking, without saying anything. And it's just like, how can a person like that come into your life? Because I had a production company with my two best friends, and they basically just kicked me out one day. It said, "We're not successful, it's your fault, like we're gonna go do our own thing." I was like, yeah, I can take it. I've always been an independent person. I'm in that position where I'm the one who is going to take the blame for things, because I'm the leader. I'm the one to do that. But it's still like, but it sucked, and like I'm kind of like waiting. I kind of like wait for people sometimes, like when is this going to end? And I think in a way I'm like that too. Maybe I moved around a lot as a kid. I'm really good at meeting new people, creating new relationships. That's what I'm best at. I'm best at meeting new people and just getting along right away. But I don't have a lot of experience with depth of relationship, which is something interesting that I love and explore. I've got my mom, of course, in my family, but and that's what I learned with my Brazilian family here. I never had family close, but I have aunts and uncles and cousins, and I'm like, I never really knew what it felt like. This is making me think
So
about.
what does it feel like,
This is
Ryan?
making me think about like to just to have people that have your back, or that aren't gonna leave. And it makes me think about kids that don't have families. Jeez. Or that they're like,
Hence the are supporting every child, right?
yeah.
Ryan, do you have tissues nearby?
No, I'm good. I'm done. Ay, ay, ay. But yeah,
It's okay to not be done. I think crying is good.
yeah. No, that was good. That was probably more than normal for being on a. Yeah, I just didn't think I'd feel like that, but but then just talking to you
People
and
like
getting
seeing real
into that.
things, Ryan.
Yeah, it's just, you think you can go through life being a strong, independent person and a leader, and think you don't need anybody, and you can leave people at any time, and you'll always be fine. But we all need people that care. We want that. We all need people that care about us, and I just like imagine what those kids must go through, that feel that like my family, maybe my parents, yeah, they're in a bad situation, like they abandoned me. Why are they like that? Why was I born into a family like this, my parents like this? Well, why did they leave me? What's wrong with me? And but I can take it. I'm strong. I have my kids, my brothers and sisters to take care of, or I can take care of myself. And you can put on a face, but really it's like we need people to care for us. Yeah.
We do,
Well,
but it's hard when they let us down.
yeah.
And we kind of think we can do it on our own.
Yeah. Well, Marcy, Um, I think this is a good time to wrap it up here. Up the show. If there's
You're like, I'm gonna start crying more. We should just cut it.
we got the crying moment. Yeah, that's the clip that'll get us the likes and comments. No, but seriously, is there anything else that you want to say that I missed that you wanted to put out, or can you wrap this up for us a little bit, Marcy?
All those things, sure. I think, I mean, a lot of what we've been talking about is, should you do something and should you fit in? I feel like that kind of is a theme of where things land. And I think it's important to celebrate and recognize that some of us are people with the idea and some of us are people joining other people's ideas. And I think that's a beautiful thing to recognize, that it's okay if you have an idea and you find someone else has an idea that's really similar and maybe you explore working together on something. I think that's important to call out. It's okay to want to start it, but do your research, because there might be some really wonderful, great people that are able to, like, to your point, right, to mentor you, to take you through things and to learn things. That's what I've done in this space. One of my podcast seasons, I was using the word orphan because children are without families. And I had an agency and I love being coachable, and I welcomed their input. And they said, please don't use that language. And I was like, help me understand. And they said, well, when children still have birth families, they're just not connected anymore. That doesn't actually make them an orphan, which is interesting because my husband's grandfather literally was orphaned. He had come as a first generation immigrant from Serbia to the United States. And so when his grandpa Sam's parents died, he had no kin. So he was an orphan. But what's interesting, Ryan, to receive, because I welcomed that feedback, I received that feedback. Thanks for telling me that. Now, do you have a suggestion on what to call these children? Oh, okay. Let's further the confusion of language in this space. But I think that set me up on a whole journey, Ryan, to learn that, like, we say children in foster care and we say adoption, but when we smash it all together, it gets confusing. And I think we can run from things that are like, oh, it's just the way it is. Or we can try to figure out, like, what's one thing I could do? I could write a post about that. What if I just wrote a post and just kind of shared with people what I learned today? There's really simple things that we all can do to make an impact. And I think, to your point of there's all these followers, I mean, that's fine for some people, but for others, and what I would encourage people to think about is why I actually finished the book. I finally finished the book I started, because I remember mid-book feeling like I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm writing a run-on sentence. Like, I'm just trying to write down things we did in my living room. And my husband reminded me, he was like, if my grandfather would have had a family adopt him, I know he would have had a very different upbringing. Like, his childhood would have been not filled with begging for food and being in the back of a police car a lot, right? And so it became like, but what if one person reads the book? What if one person adopts a child? And I think that's kind of the overall message I would just leave people with, of like, if you're wanting to go out of the gate or do something tomorrow or continue the thing you're doing and you're thinking it's not big enough right now, it's not ever, that just seems so big. Maybe don't start so big. Like, maybe, does that really matter at the end of the day? Like, is it really about numbers or is it really about impact? Because I don't think those always go hand in hand. Sometimes the impact is one. So that's where I'll kind of wrap things up, Ryan, is thinking through, like, if you're stuck in getting started because you think it's not big enough, then don't go so big so fast. It's like it will get there if it's meant to be.
Yes, start small, like our good friend Ansa Lee says. Start small. That's absolutely true.
Yeah,
absolutely. Wow, thanks, Marcy. So, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you and with your work these days?
Sure. All my social platforms are public. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. You can go to forgottenadoptionoption.com as well, but pretty easy to locate. And I welcome direct messages or reaching out.
Great. Sounds good. All right, then until next time, Marcy, and until next time, all you people out there, see you later.